as we all get older, as we're all aging, health and fitness has to play a vital role in just your daily lifestyle, because you can see people that are, in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and you could see who really took care of themselves
Mm.
earlier on in their lives and then who didn't. And the people that didn't, it doesn't matter how much money they have in their bank account, they would do anything to get their health back.
Welcome to the V-Shred Better Body, Better Life podcast, where we help you live your best life while working on your health and fitness goals. We're here to make your journey fun and inspiring.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the V-Shred Better Body, Better Life podcast. I'm your host, Vince Sant, and extremely excited to have one of our V-Shred coaches here, Mitch Neelen. He is a licensed PTA. He's a PN1 nutritionist. He's been a personal trainer for over 10 years. He actually trains Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, if I'm not wrong. He considers himself a hybrid athlete like myself, and just loves helping his clients get results, has a lot of experience doing it, and also loves helping other coaches get their clients results. And today we are going to be talking about how and why to be proactive with your fitness rather than reactive. So, Mitch, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
So, I know I just kind of introduced you, but why don't you give us just a little bit of context around who you are and why you do this?
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, this is something I'm super passionate about. This has been, something I've been doing for over a decade now, really helping clients one-on-one. And then since I've been with V-Shred, I've actually worked into different roles where I've then been able to manage other coaches and other trainers and helping them with their specific clients. My background, like you mentioned, I come from a physical therapy background. I was working hands-on with clients for about 8 years in lots of orthopedic and outpatient settings. So you think about clients that are overcoming injuries, maybe coming off of a surgery and they need some rehab for that. And during that time, I always did personal training and I was a nutrition coach. And then over the time of around COVID, around like 2020, I had a friend that was with V-Shred. And she kind of recruited me for a position at V-Shred, thought that I could do pretty well with there. And, kind of like they say, the rest is history. I started with V-Shred and it's been a heck of a journey ever since.
That's awesome. Who's the friend? Maybe we'll bleep out the name if
Heather.
Oh,
she's still with us. Heather.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. You guys are from the same area. Where are you from, by the way?
I'm from Jersey. So my wife was college roommates with Heather.
Oh, wow. Small world.
Mm.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess jumping into the topic of just proactiveness versus reactiveness for our listeners, can you just go ahead and give us what does it mean to be proactive versus reactive? And why do you think that this is an important topic for people to understand?
Yeah, happy to dive into that and tell you a little bit more about why this is important for not only me, but for anybody on their health and fitness journey. And when you think about being proactive, you might think about the time when we were all in school and we had, some homework that was assigned out to us that was like, we had the entire semester to do this, but so many times we wait until the last minute to get this project done. And it becomes more stressful than it needs to be. And so that's kind of like, in a nutshell, you think about being proactive, it's almost always better to do things more proactively. Well, it's even more important when it comes to your health and fitness, because this isn't really talking about just homework. This is about your actual health for your future. And so what I see a lot of times is, I talk with people and they will sometimes wait for something bad to happen before making the correct change that they need to make. So if you think about it, they're thinking more reactively instead of proactively. And that's something where when you have that mindset and you're just waiting for disaster to come to your doorstep before you make a change, before you do something about it, you're always going to be playing catch up. And it's so much easier in the long run when you can think more proactively with that.
And then what are some of the bad things or these moments of disaster or like disaster struck, however you just said, what are some of those examples?
Yeah. So, I mean, like when you're talking in the health and fitness space, I'm sure you've seen this a lot. I know I do. You encounter clients that sometimes they don't understand the importance of their health and fitness, and they're chasing their career or they're chasing their wealth, but they put their health to the
Mm,
side for so long, and then all of a sudden, their health comes knocking on their doorstep with something bad happening. Maybe it's high blood pressure, maybe it's high cholesterol, maybe it's diabetes.
yeah.
All these things that could have been preventable, but necessary steps proactively to start making those improvements. So then you go to your doctor's checkup and they're saying like, hey, you have this, this, and this. And all of a sudden you're like, oh man, now I'm going to make the change. And hey, of
Mm.
course, like, it's better late than never. But we all know if you were to take those necessary steps earlier on in your journey, you could have prevented all that from happening in the first place.
And so, but then comes the question, and I'm just trying to put myself behind the mind of the person who is in that situation right now, where, or I guess before the situation where it does become something that you have to do, because it's really easy to find motivation when you have to do something. The morning of your science fair project or the night before, you are super motivated to get it done because you don't want to fail, and it's literally due the next day and you have no more time to waste. And so with health, like you said, it's even more important. But how do people find that motivation to be proactive when it's not necessarily something that's a dire situation right now? They're maybe a little overweight, maybe not happy with where they are. Maybe they're feeling some effects of imbalanced hormones or whatever, but they're fine for the most part, right? It's just 10, 20 years down the road of that. And that's when they're going to be in this really scary situation. How do they find the motivation now?
It's something where they need to be thinking about where they'd like to be in the future, right? And it's something where as we all get older, as we're all aging, health and fitness has to play a vital role in just your daily lifestyle, because you can see people that are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and you could see who really took care of themselves
Mm,
earlier on in their lives and then who didn't. And the people that didn't, it doesn't matter how much money they have in their bank account, they would do anything to get their health back. So many people, especially in this day and age, like, in America especially, they're busy chasing their wealth, but it's so important to not forget about your health while you're doing all that as well. Because if you don't have your health, you don't have anything,
yeah.
and you can see that when you talk to, or if you listen to any of these most wealthy people in the world, but if they don't have their health, they don't seem that happy, do they?
Yeah. I actually just saw, it's funny you say that. I actually just watched it was just like a little Instagram reel or something, I think literally yesterday. And he was talking about the order of importance for your personal health. And he broke it down. He said, everybody needs to have 4 categories that they're healthy in. And this is in order. He said, first is physical health. He said, because without physical health, you have nothing. He said, second is mental health. Third is spiritual health. And then fourth was financial health. And so he said, the other 3, very important. But without the first one, the other 3 are seemingly not important. So
Yes.
interesting that you say that. But then what are some like misconceptions that people have around what it takes to be fit? Because a lot of times people are not proactive because they see it as this big obstacle that they have to tackle and they don't really know how to. How would you, I guess, convince somebody that being proactive is not as hard as they might think?
Yeah. And you and I both know, like, right now, this is the age of information.
Mm,
So it can feel like a big pill to swallow and just like a big daunting task to just figure out where the heck to get started, because
yeah.
there's just so much information out there online and you don't know what's accurate and what's not. And you start to try to analyze everything. And then what happens is you overanalyze, you get what we call analysis paralysis, where you're just looking at every bit of information, you just freeze. You can't even move. And it's really just about taking the first step towards making some healthy habits and some healthy changes in your life. And most of us will all know how to live a healthier life and how to make some small changes. And it's about just having those little changes start adding up, because those little changes over time will equal to big results.
What would you say are some of the lowest hanging fruit obstacles that people can choose to correct in their daily lives?
Yeah, there's a lot of really easy ones that pretty much everybody could implement. I think at least getting 30 minutes of some daily movement into your daily routine, that means just like getting your heart rate up slightly into that like orange medium level zone. And just doing that 30 minutes a day is super important. And it's going to, of course, improve your overall health physically, but also mentally, you're going to notice so many improvements with that. But then when you talk about like nutrition, everybody's heard you can't out-train a bad diet. And so many diets could be, easily improved by thinking about like just some staples. I mean, think about having whole foods in your diet, right? I mean, just like having good sources of protein, good hearty fresh vegetables and fruits. And then don't be eating and drinking like these terrible drinks like sodas and energy drinks that have all these other additives in them, and it's just not going to be good for your system overall.
Yeah. And then when it comes to the exercise side of things, I like to touch on that because people do think that more is more usually. What's your take on that?
Yeah. So it's one of those things. You can go out of the gate starting out on your workout plan and you can go 100 miles an hour. And yeah, you're going to go super fast. You're going to get some quick results, but you have to ask yourself, how long is this going to be sustainable for? Because if you're only going out 100 miles an hour, but it's just for 7 days or even just a month, in the grand scheme of life, that's not something that's going to be sustainable. And then you set yourself up for failure and you set yourself up for this roller coaster ride where, Vince, I know you've talked to a lot of people that get stuck in that roller coaster ride. And sometimes it's because they're going out right out of the gate 100 miles an hour, and it's not a speed that they can maintain, when really they need to pump the brakes a little bit, slow down, think about it as more of a marathon, not just a short sprint.
Yep.
Right. And think about it as more of a lifestyle change that they could be making and something they could be consistent with. And when they can find that consistency, that's when they're going to get the good results.
Yep. I've watched many people burn themselves out because they go for months, if not years, of doing essentially nothing for their health. And then they make that decision that they're going to be better. It's usually around New Year's as well. And then for the first 3 weeks of New Year's, they go balls to the wall. They go all out. They're spending as much time as they can in the gym. They're eating as little food as possible. And then day 20, I mean, there's studies done on how long people stick to their New Year's fitness resolutions. And it is shocking. It's like, I want to say 85% of people drop off before February. And then by March, it's like, I think a total of like 96% or something like that. It's wild.
Yeah. The other thing I noticed is like, it's crazy that people will go at it with that mindset. They'll go out of the gate 100 miles an hour and then they crash and burn, right? But then what's crazier to me is that they'll do this year after year as a New Year's resolution, or maybe just trying to get fit for summertime or whatever the case may be. But they just don't have a process that's really sustainable for them. So they go into this trap over and over and over again. And I'll take a quote from Albert Einstein because he was a pretty smart guy. But he says, if you do the same thing over and over and are expecting a different result, it's the cycle for insanity.
Yep.
So you have to start switching up your plan and your process that you're following so you can get some different results.
And it kind of goes in line with just the whole topic of what we're talking about, of being proactive versus reactive. I think starting a fitness journey on January 1st is reactive. Because you could have started it at any moment in October or November or December, but no, you probably told yourself, I'm going to get through the holidays and then I'm going to make that my goal for the new year, which in my opinion is reactive because of the social pressure of getting in shape for New Year's. Everybody, there was a survey of how many people have some sort of fitness resolution as one of their New Year's resolutions, and it was like 3 out of 5 or something like that.
Definitely, at least,
maybe 4 out of 5. Probably everybody in some regard, right? Because personal health is up there, is the number one most important thing to a lot of people. Some people just don't prioritize it. And same thing with like getting in shape for, you mentioned like summer, or it could be a wedding coming up, or it could be a vacation. Like how many times have you heard of friends, family, clients who need to get in shape right now because they want to look good in their wedding dress, or they need to drop 3 sides? That's reactive. Versus if you switch into this proactive mindset where you make a decision to start today, you do something that's sustainable, something you can actually stick to and actually learn to enjoy. Now you have a wedding coming up and you're already looking, feeling good. You're on a roll and you're not having to freak out about how you're going to drop 20 pounds by the time in 3 months or whatever. So I think that perfectly goes in line with what we're talking about.
And the other thing, I'll just piggyback on that is, people like to try to get in shape really quickly, right? Maybe they have a wedding coming up. Maybe they got a summer vacation coming up and, they go on these like crash and burn type of diets. The other thing that I notice is people try to wait for the perfect time for them to get started on a plan.
For anything, but especially for fitness.
Yeah. Especially for fitness, but yes, for anything. But I'm telling you what, like there is never going to be the perfect time. And then another thing on top of that is you have to think, if you're constantly waiting to get started on XYZ, but of course now we're talking about fitness. If you're thinking about getting started on your fitness journey, but you're waiting for the perfect time, let's say the perfect time does come and you get started. Well, that's all great. But guess what? The perfect time isn't going to stay like that.
Yeah.
Eventually, you're going to encounter some bumps in the road, some obstacles. Then what happens, right? Well, the thing is, you were only waiting to succeed because you had the perfect time there. But then as soon as you encounter some turbulence, it's going to throw you off track. But on the contrary, if you can get started now, right, and not wait for the perfect time, and let's say even if you were in a really busy time and you get started on a plan, then guess what? The rest of your life's going to go on and you're going to encounter some easier times, some harder times, but you're well equipped to continue with that journey because you've already proven to yourself that you can be successful in those busy times. So you're ready for all those obstacles that are down the road.
Yep. There's a quote that kind of goes in line with this that I love. Smooth seas never made a skilled sailor. It's like one of my favorite quotes of all time.
I love that quote.
Yeah, because I mean, if you do wait until the perfect time, like you said, after 2 or 3 weeks, it's no longer going to be a perfect time. So what does goal setting, how does goal setting play a role in being proactive?
Yeah. So I think having a goal in any aspect of an accomplishment that you're looking to achieve is super important because it gives you a target to shoot for. And what I like to do and what I actually help my clients with is once we have that goal in mind, we can actually reverse engineer the process and the plan to be able to achieve that goal in a realistic time frame. So, in the aspect of health and fitness, many people are looking to lose weight, right? Let's say they're looking to lose that 30 pounds that they have. I find it's good to have that goal, right? And then from there, we can kind of reverse engineer the plan and the process that it's going to take in order to achieve that goal. And we come up with, realistic outcomes. And then once they have a plan that gives them realistic outcomes, and it's a plan that they could follow and they can actually fit in with their lifestyle, they're more likely to stick with it, right? And when they stick with it, they start getting results. And when they get results, that's more motivation for them to continue with the plan. And all of a sudden, you're in this like positive cycle where you're getting closer and closer to the goal.
Yes.
And it's all because you had that target laid out and you have a plan and a process that's suitable for your lifestyle to help you get there.
Yes. And I think one thing that I would add to that is being realistic about what the actual goals that you're going to achieve are. Would you agree? Because a lot of people, they go into it where they're like, I'm going to lose 10 pounds this month. They have 30 pounds to lose. So they're like, I'm going to lose 10 pounds a month and I'm going to lose this 30 pounds in 3 months. And it's like, you might, sure, but you probably won't. And that's a very fast way to lose weight. I mean, the ideal range of weight loss, of healthy weight loss, is like 1 or 2 pounds a week. If you're lucky, 8 pounds a month, which is under that 10-pound range. And so I think the biggest issue, and correct me and I'm open to hear, I'd love to hear your opinion. I think people have these expectations for themselves, which is super important to have goals, super important to be optimistic and and aim for the moon and be ambitious about what you want to achieve, but be realistic with the timelines. Because I think people hype themselves up and they get all excited and maybe they see results really fast, but then they expect that to continue. And then when it doesn't, they lose all that motivation. And so it then becomes this negative feedback cycle loop thing, as opposed to if they went into it with the right mindset.
100% agree. And a lot of people will achieve that, getting that mindset, and it will help them to get that mindset if they can have some professional support and guidance along their journey to kind of guide them into setting realistic expectations.
Yeah.
You know, and like there's many trainers, myself included, through VShred that have coached 10,000 clients plus, right? So we're not a rookie in this game. This is something where we know this like the back of our hands. And I'm all about setting realistic expectations with clients. And sometimes it's easy for clients to get caught up in, oh, I want to lose this much weight in this amount of time. Yeah. But there's a few things that I have to say with that. One, the number on the scale does not tell the full story. Okay, we all know this. But the other thing
hang on, before you go on, touch on that a little bit more for anybody who doesn't know that.
Okay, so this is big because there's so many clients that come into the program and their main goal is, I want to lose X amount of weight and get to this goal, right? This goal weight. And then we start kind of, dissecting that a little bit more, understanding like why that number is so important to them in the first place. And really they're like, well, I want to have more energy and I want to fit into my clothes better. And they start naming all these goals, which are really great goals, are super realistic and functional. But oftentimes those are not always correlated with the number on the scale. Sometimes you get close to that number and you start noticing you do have more energy, right? And you improve your body composition, meaning you turn some body fat into some lean muscle. And maybe the number on the scale didn't change that much, but your clothes are fitting way better. And all of a sudden that boosts your confidence and you start actually achieving all your goals, and you're not even at the weight that you initially had planned, but you're feeling amazing. So that's why I say it's not always about the number on the scale. That does not tell the whole story.
Yep. Completely agree. Sorry, didn't want to sidetrack you.
And then, so let me just cover what I was going to talk about after that. The other thing is sometimes people will come up with these goals and sometimes these unrealistic expectations because they're caught in the trap of looking at what other people are doing. They're going on that VShred Facebook page where there's amazing support. It's an awesome community. And, they might find themselves comparing them to others.
Yeah.
And there are people that are out there that are losing 30, 40 pounds in 3 months. And it's fantastic and it's amazing, but that's not everybody. And so some people are coming into their journey expecting the same exact results that this person over there had, but we don't know their whole story. They might have a totally different story.
Yep.
They might have more weight to lose.
Yep.
They might have had a different plan in the process. And then also when you're coming into a plan, understand it's not just you're starting from a plan from ground zero. There's also, we've put into play everything that you've done in the past, everything you've done previous to going on a new plan. Because if you came from a history of following every fad diet there is and cutting your calories over and over and over again until your metabolism starts to shut down and you lost a lot of your lean muscle mass, guess what? When you first come into the program, like we're going to have to do some catching up and kind of resetting with your metabolism and everything else. And really, you have to reset that before you can start getting these great results you're looking for.
Yes, I love that. I have 3 things to say. First 2 are quotes, because I'm a big quote guy. It's what you talked about with like focusing on other people. First quote is, and this is one thing that we always talked about in early days of VShred, is run your race. Run your race. Don't worry about anybody else's race. It's not the whole grass is greener thing over there. It's not. Run your race. Focus on what you're doing. There's actually, I forget the book. I forget the book's name, but it's basically all about just focusing on you, focusing on your journey, focusing on running your own race. That's the whole book's about, and I absolutely love it. The other quote was, and this is a super common one, also one of my favorites ever, is comparison is the thief of joy. And that's huge. And that's all of us. That's myself. That's probably you. That's everybody that I've ever known. They compare themselves to other people in some facet of their life, knowing they shouldn't, but they do.
Mhm.
And so so with fitness, I think it's even more important because like you said, you do see these people losing 30, 40 pounds in a couple of months. You do see people going on these 150-pound weight loss journeys. You do see people completely transforming themselves, right? And so people just expect it to come for them. They expect it to happen fast, when in reality, those people, like you said, are completely different than them. Maybe they worked super hard, maybe they didn't. But expecting that is going to set you up for failure, because odds are you're not going to get those results.
You're just spitting off fire quotes after fire quotes, man.
It's all this brain's got is just fire quotes. But I did want to ask you, I kind of wanted to touch on fitness routines a little bit more, because we kind of mentioned it at the beginning a little bit. We talked about how you said like 30 minutes of activity for somebody who is looking, and obviously there's like better places to go for if you want to like work with a coach, like you mentioned, like we have a ton of coaches here at V-Shred who have all the experience anyone could ever want. We've worked with every person from every walk of life, with every goal, every dietary restriction, every autoimmune disease. We've worked with them all. Right. And so if somebody does want to work with us, they can obviously, maybe there's a link around this video somewhere, but also just go to our website. And I think our biggest thing is taking our metabolic assessment, which is to our Accelerator Plus program, to see if you qualify to work with a one-on-one coach very intimately, which allows you to get those results. But when someone is not wanting to work with a coach, what would you say are some more like specific practical fitness routines that someone would start if they want to actually stick to it long term?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I know it's on a lot of people's minds. And the biggest thing I would emphasize with that is don't think about getting everything perfect, because it's better just to get started. Getting started is better than getting it perfect. I'll give you another good quote. I know you're the quote guy
here
today.
we go.
I'm gonna give you this one. All right. So when is the best time to plant a tree? Probably 20 years ago.
Ooh.
What is the second best time? Right now.
Ooh,
okay.
I like that.
What that means is don't wait. Okay. You can get started now, and you don't need things to be perfect. So, when I'm talking about my general fitness philosophy that I like to talk to clients about, I'm all about having a low barrier of entry. What I mean by that is you don't need to have the fanciest equipment. You don't need to have, all your workout clothes perfectly matching. You don't need to have all your supplements before you get started. Yes, can you believe it? You don't need supplements to get started on your fitness journey. But the thing is, you can get started with, you don't even need anything. Like that's literally the truth. And it's just starting with making some healthy habits, right? Just adding in some healthy habits into your lifestyle. Hey, maybe you start by getting in a walk outside for 30 minutes. That's a starting point. And then from there, if that's super easy for you, that's a good thing. But for others, maybe it's not. Maybe it's, that's a good place to start for them. But either way, from there are progressions.
Yeah.
But before you can even think about the progressions, just master the basics first. So go for that walk outside. Start cutting out the sodas. Start cutting out the artificial sweeteners and the sugars and the candy from Halloween and all that stuff. So I'm a low barrier of entry guy. Just think about getting started rather than getting it perfect.
And obviously, like one of the things that we talk about here at V-Shred is sustainability. What do you say to somebody who says that they can't necessarily give up those junk foods, or I don't know, maybe they love Coke or they love Sprite or something like that, and they just can't live without it, or they have these specific foods that they just need to have in their diet occasionally? What do you say to that?
And it's crazy, but there are people out there that literally don't like the taste of water.
Oh, I used to be one of them. In high school, wild. I only drank Mountain Dew. That was literally it. And my parents literally had to limit me to 1 can of Mountain Dew a day because it got so bad at one point. And I don't know how I lived. I didn't drink water.
That's crazy. So you can really relate to these people. So there are people like that out there. Vince was one of them.
I was one of them. And I love water now. And I always have it next to me. Some of you are only listening, but I'm holding up a shaker bottle. Both of us are holding up shaker bottles right now.
So the thing is, like, if you have foods that you really love to have and it's kind of like a non-negotiable for you, listen, I'm not going to be the one to say you can never have that. No way. You're not going to succeed if you have that. I'll compromise with you. You know, as a coach, I'm going to understand like what your goals are, right? What kind of foods you really love to have, what you can't go without.
Yeah.
And I'll try my best to come up with a game plan that will help you succeed in your goals and still be able to have some of the foods that you like. Maybe it's about just having these in moderation. Doesn't mean you have to cut them out 100% cold turkey, but maybe it's just having a little bit in moderation. Maybe I could even make a few suggestions to make some swaps. For example, instead of having Coca-Cola and Sprites and all these other, sodas and pops out there, maybe you could switch to another type of beverage, like a seltzer water, like a LaCroix or a Zevia. Like there's a lot of good options out there that in my opinion, they taste even better than the sodas, but they're a lot better for you. So sometimes it's about making a compromise. Sometimes it's about having what you really want in moderation.
Yep.
But either way, we can work with that.
Yep. And it's funny you mentioned those flavored waters, because that was my dad in a nutshell for years. My dad always he kind of ballooned in weight up and down my entire childhood. Always worked out, but always ate like complete shit. And he hated water. Always drank either pop or he drank alcohol. And he when he started getting into his fitness journey in the last probably five or so years, he hated water. And the only way that he could drink water was he would get those little water flavoring packets, and he had to put one or two of those into every single water. And that was just his way of making water, I guess, edible for himself, because otherwise he just wouldn't drink it. Right. And so it made it more accessible for him. It made it easier to actually drink. And so it goes back to what you said about finding what that alternative is for you, because maybe it's not water flavoring. Maybe it is going and getting, trying out all the different flavors of LaCroix. If you like this whole sparkling water stuff, personally hate sparkling water. I think it tastes like, it reminds me of like TV static in my mouth. I hate it.
Oh man.
I wish I liked it, because it seems like a classier water, but I don't know. I just can't get behind it.
Are you still drinking Mountain Dew these days?
No Mountain Dew. I actually like, and this is a little, I'll admit one of my crutches is, it's, to be fair, it is sugar-free and caffeine-free, but A&W root beers.
Oh, okay.
So I have a can of one of those pretty much every day, and it's usually just with my dinner. Yeah, because I don't know, I love it so much, and I know that I know it's got all those additives to it, but again, it goes back to sustainability, and it goes back to following something and doing stuff in moderation. I'm not drinking A&W root beers 4 or 5 times a day with every single meal. I'm making it so that I enjoy my dinner more, and my dinner is always, my food is super healthy and super clean, and so I'm making my super clean meal a little more enjoyable with this sugar-free, caffeine-free root beer. And so it makes it so that I can still feel like I'm living life like a normal human, and I'm still having the things that I enjoy having, while still being very cognitive of making healthier decisions most of the time. Because I love the whole, I'd love to hear your take on this. What's your whole take on the 80-20 rule? Because I think some people say 70-30, some people say 90-10. I say 80-20.
Yeah. I like the 80-20 rule. And what you're talking about there, you have your root beer for dinner. All that is it's balanced. It's not about being so strict, and just if you have a process that doesn't give you some things you actually enjoy, and it's just so strict all the time, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. That's not a process that's super sustainable. Yeah. So it's about hey, if you want to have a root beer every once in a while, but you're still getting your workouts in, you're still eating pretty clean, that's a good balance. And it sounds like you're following that 80-20 rule pretty well.
Yep.
I like the 80-20 rule. I always aim for, and with my clients as well, I aim for progress over perfection. So, don't think about being perfect with it every time, but just getting progress. And if you feel hesitant to get started on a plan because you're thinking, oh man, my coach is going to make me cut out all the foods I love and all the drinks that I love, that is not the case. Because as we just talked about here, there's lots of ways where you can continue to have it, maybe just in moderation, or we can actually give you some healthy recommendations that could be a good swap for you.
Yeah.
So there's always ways that we can still help with that.
That's actually huge. I think a lot of people, I haven't really thought about that. People probably don't get started because they think I mean, I guess I have thought of that in a way. I guess I just haven't thought of it in relation to a coach, actually working with a coach, because they think that coach is going to be some boot camp, military style person who's going to make them eat nothing but chicken and rice and vegetables and never enjoy life again. When in reality, hey, we have clients who, if you love French toast or you love pancakes, have it. Like personally, I was never an ice cream guy, but I've been on this ice cream kick for the last probably 2 years. And I have ice cream probably twice a week. And it's like Reese mixed into it. And it's just my way of finding that balance. It's usually on the weekends, Monday through Friday. I'm pretty strict with what I'm doing. And then Saturday and possibly both Sunday, I'm ordering ice cream and I'm enjoying it. And then I get back to it on Monday again. And also when I'm having ice cream those days, I also take that into account and train extra hard, eat extra clean, knowing that that's coming. And so I think following that rule of moderation is super important. And then also making adjustments elsewhere in your plan to prepare for that. If you know that you're going out to dinner with friends and you know that you're going to eat like crap and you know that you're going to have some alcoholic beverages, maybe just eat a little lighter that earlier that day so that you can have those calories, and those calories aren't going to affect you negatively, because you do need a certain number of calories every single day. You don't need to be starving yourself. And so you can still eat as much as you want at that dinner, as long as you're just not hitting your calories before that dinner.
Yeah. And then if you do have that bad dinner, there's a few things there. One, it's okay to have a cheat meal, but try not to have a cheat day. And then also, once you have that cheat meal, don't make yourself feel guilty about it, because that's just going to make you more stressed out about it.
Yeah.
Just move on from that.
Yeah.
The important thing is, like, it's okay to have a cheat meal every once in a while, but then move on and get right back on track. Don't let that hold you down, and don't let that steer you into a whole binging weekend.
Yeah. And then when someone does experience that feeling of guilt after that, how do they find the motivation to silence that and kind of get, because that actually is kind of a good segue. I was going to say, I mean, we mentioned getting motivated in the beginning, even when you don't necessarily have to get in shape right now. You're trying to be proactive about it, right? And then let's say you do it. Let's say you go, my doctor's not telling me that I'm not obese. My doctor's not telling me I'm pre-diabetic right now or anything like that. I don't have to do this right now. I'm doing this because I want to be proactive, because I listen to the V-Shred Better Body, Better Life podcast. But then after they get started and they go 2-3 weeks down this road, now they lose a little bit of motivation. How does somebody sustain that motivation?
That is a great question. But the thing is, they should not be relying on motivation. The fact is, motivation comes and goes. And this will be a trend throughout your journey, throughout everybody's journey. Everybody experiences this, myself included. I bet Vince too, that motivation will come and go. So if you're relying on motivation to be the sole factor that's keeping you on your journey, you're setting yourself up for failure. So you want to know what's much better than relying on motivation, which is, and I know Vince already knows this one, it's having discipline. If you can find discipline, then you don't need motivation to stick with your plan, your process. You have discipline to be able to stick with that.
Yep.
Right. And part of that discipline is having accountability. And maybe you're one of those people that can keep yourself accountable. And if you are, that is amazing. That's a great trait. But a lot of us aren't. So if you're one of those people that, you do find yourself in these positions where maybe you struggle with some accountability, maybe you stick with it for a couple weeks, but then you fall off track, or you have a cheat day that turns into a cheat weekend, and all of a sudden it's like the train is derailed and you can't get back. Maybe you need some extra help with your accountability. And I would 100% recommend getting some additional support on your journey, because it would be the smartest thing to do. There's countless studies that prove if you have additional support on your journey, whatever journey that might be, but especially health and fitness. But when you have that support, you're going to get to your goals faster and more efficiently. and you'll go further than you ever anticipated as well. So if you're struggling with accountability, go get some accountability, because there are ways where you can get that and have that support system in place. And so that way you're not relying on motivation all the time.
And that's actually a perfect spot to wrap this up, because for everybody listening, Mitch and I are going to be back doing an episode around how to hold yourself accountable easier. So if you guys are interested in hearing Mitch and I talk more about what he just touched on and figuring out ways and tips and tricks and things to avoid when trying to hold yourself accountable, make sure that you guys are tuning in for our next episode, where we're going to be going through all of that. But for this one, I think you crushed it. I think this gave our listeners a lot of just ideas and hopefully motivation to get into that proactive mindset rather than doing something because you have to, and now you're doing it reactively, and now it's a much scarier situation. And the whole and there's actually a quote that you wrote. It was an ounce of prevention is
worth a pound of
cure. And I think that's a great takeaway. I actually want to ask you, are there any key takeaways for our listeners that you want to leave them with?
Yeah. Well, first off, if you made it this far into the podcast, I thank you. I congratulate you. This is awesome getting to talk about something that I'm really passionate about, and I hope it can help you on your journey. One takeaway I want to leave you guys with is, when we're talking about being proactive and not, reactive, the important thing that I want you to take away from this is you have a choice to get started on your journey, right? And remember that you don't have to do this, but you get to do this. Okay. You'd be amazed at how many people out there would die to have the opportunity that you have to get started on the health and fitness journey. Think about all the people out there with no legs that are running marathons. Watch the Special Olympics every year. There's so many inspirational people out there. So you don't have an excuse not to get started.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love that. And I also love what you said about, that's a big thing that I try to implement into my mindset just in any normal conversation. It's not, I have to do this. It's I get to do this. And I don't care what it is. It's like, oh, I got jury duty. It's like, well, I get to go to jury duty, whatever it is. If you can just look at it in that mindset, even if it doesn't feel authentic in the moment, if you can start to embody that mindset of appreciating and gratitude and abundance, if you can start really embodying those mindsets, it's going to make everything a lot more enjoyable. It's going to completely change your mood, which is going to affect literally everything. So yeah, that's awesome. But cool, man. Well, I appreciate you being on here with us. This was a really, really solid episode. Hopefully everybody enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to our next one.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for having me.
All right. Now, if you are looking for some extra support and you aren't looking to spend a fortune, you should consider working with one of our V-Shred certified coaches. We'll figure out your macros, we'll figure out your calories, we'll figure out what your custom meal plan will look like. And yes, we'll make sure that it contains your favorite foods. And basically all you do is you let your coach know what you like, what you don't like, because when we say custom, we mean it. And you get unlimited emails, you get weekly check-ins, you get access to our brand new coaching app where you can message them at any time about anything with any questions. Our coaches are here to help you reach your goals, and they care about your success. And so all the details about how it works is in the description down below. So check that out if you want to. But thank you again for tuning in. Until next time.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of V-Shred's Better Body, Better Life podcast. Whether you're doing one of our programs, taking our supplements, or just doing things on your own, tune in every week for exclusive content with Vince, V-Shred trainers, and special guests as they share valuable tips around motivation, workouts, food, and living a healthier lifestyle. See you next time.